Let's talk about Emily Hart, seen here and no doubt boosting my engagement. Emily's a gun-toting, beer-drinking, bikini-wearing MAGA influencer who made headlines back in April when it was revealed that she wasn't real. She was AI slop created by an Indian medical student looking to make some extra cash. You might think you wouldn't have been fooled by Emily, but don't be so sure. That Indian medical student, perhaps accidentally, tapped into a propaganda strategy that's so effective that the British used it to win their information war against the Nazis during World War II. Before we jump into the story, I want to say two things. First, there will be discussion of sexual violence later in this video, so if that's a tough subject for you, you might want to bail out now. Second, this video is not going to be, haha, MAGA man dumb, fall for fake girl. Left-leaning AI slop these days is just as prevalent as right-leaning AI slop. Just during the past few weeks, this fake image of Donald Trump trying to kiss Brigitte Macron went viral, as did this AI-generated video of a protester scaling the Department of Justice and tearing down a banner with Trump's face on it. We've all got buttons that can be pushed by someone who knows how, or by someone who asks AI how to push our buttons. Emily Hart wasn't that medical student's first go at creating a hot girl influencer. The student, who goes by Sam but prefers to remain anonymous, I wonder why, had already tried it a couple of times before, using Nana Banana to create images of scantily clad young women in provocative poses. These early attempts weren't as successful as Sam had hoped, so he turned to Google Gemini for help. Google Gemini suggested that Sam find a niche, and of the niches Sam suggested, Google Gemini recommended MAGA, because older men in that niche tend to have a lot of disposable income, and they can be, how do we put this, very loyal fans. Sam gave himself a crash course in MAGA talking points and began churning out posts like this one. He couldn't monetize the Instagram account because that would have outed Emily as AI slop, but soon he was making thousands of dollars a month anyway through merch sales and by using the Instagram account to funnel viewers to Emily's fan view account, where he would sell sexually explicit images of his creation. And by the way, Nano Banana will not create sexually explicit material, so he used Grok for that.
A brave new world that has such creatures in it.
Eventually, Instagram did shut him down, but according to Sam, he was going to stop posting around that time anyway because he wanted to focus more on his studies. Sam wasn't even the first guy to try this and get away with it. Jessica Foster was another AI-generated influencer who racked up 1 million subscribers on Instagram before the account was shut down in March. Jessica was supposedly a military advisor to the Trump White House while also being a successful foot model on OnlyFans. And no one knows who created that account and pocketed all the money. If you take nothing else away from this video, please remember this. No one, and I mean no one, is a White House military advisor and also an OnlyFans foot model. That isn't a thing that happens. So what does all this have to do with World War II? What Sam did, along with whoever created Jessica Foster, bears some striking similarities to the wartime tactics employed by a British journalist turned propagandist named Sefton Delmer. Sefton Delmer worked for a clandestine British intelligence operation known as the Political Warfare Executive, or PWE. His job was to produce anti-Nazi radio broadcasts that sounded like they had originated within Nazi Germany itself, rather than Great Britain. Delmer's broadcasts were raw, raunchy affairs, rich with pornographic details that shocked his superiors, but they were far more successful than anything the PWE had produced before. Delmer had figured out that sex sells, but not in the way that we think it does. Delmer was born in Germany to British parents in 1904 and spent most of his childhood there. He later became trapped in Germany when World War I broke out. As a child in the German school, he was forced to parrot the anti-British propaganda that was then part of the curriculum, and he found himself almost starting to believe some of it despite being British himself. He managed to leave Germany in 1917, but returned during the interwar years to work as a foreign correspondent for the Daily Express. During that time, he managed to ingratiate himself with many leaders of the up-and-coming Nazi Party, particularly SA leader Ernst Röhm. He was the first British journalist to interview Adolf Hitler, and even traveled with Hitler on his private aircraft during a 1932 speaking tour. He took copious notes about everything and closely observed the Nazis' propaganda strategies and rhetorical techniques. This access to party elites, coupled with his experiences in Germany as a child, gave him a deep insight into how and why German propaganda worked, and he began to think of counter-strategies. Delmer was recruited into the PWE in 1940 and almost immediately clashed with some of the other operatives there. Before Delmer's arrival, PWE broadcasts consisted mainly of high-minded appeals to democracy read by exiled German intellectuals. Delmer felt that this was a waste of time and resources. In his view, the Germans who believed in democracy were already opposed to Hitler and did not need further convincing, and these broadcasts did little more than create the 1940s equivalent of an online echo chamber. What Delmer and his team wanted to do was skip the politics and go right for the gut. They planned to wear down the resolve of the most hardcore, committed Nazis by appealing to what polite society would refer to as mankind's baser instincts. Enter der Chef. Der Chef, which means the boss in German, was supposedly a blunt, gruff-talking, too old to give a damn non-commissioned officer in the German army. Basically, the German version of every guy Clint Eastwood has played since 1986.
Get off my lawn.
Der Chef broadcast was structured to sound like they came from a pirate radio station run by a growing movement of German soldiers disgusted by the incompetence, decadence, and excess of the Nazi elites, particularly the SS, who feasted, while ordinary German citizens struggled with rationing and rank-and-file German soldiers dragged their bellies through the mud. In reality, Der Chef was an actor hired by Delmer to read scripts that, despite their explosive profanity and simmering anger, were meticulously crafted to simultaneously titillate and enrage their listeners. A typical Der Chef broadcast might describe how SS officers had turned a monastery into a brothel, dressed prostitutes in priestly vestments, and held orgies in the chapel. These orgies would then be described in excruciatingly vivid detail. Or he would describe how a Nazi admiral would share his wife with 4 or 5 of his favorite sailors, whether she was into it or not, and again, in excruciatingly vivid detail. The idea wasn't to get people to stop being Nazis, but to make people start thinking that their leaders had betrayed Nazism. And the hope wasn't that they would form some kind of fifth column, but rather, maybe they'd get a little sloppy in their work at the munitions factory, or get a little greedy with their rations, or maybe they just wouldn't be there when it was time to step up because, hey, screw those old perverts running this country. This is a tactic that's been employed since the time of Sun Tzu, as we've talked about in other videos. Remember, the tools of propaganda have changed, but the techniques haven't. Der Chef ran for 700 episodes before Delmer had him captured and shot on air by the Gestapo. Now, that's a series finale. Due to a scheduling error, Der Chef's capture and execution was broadcast twice, which pretty much blew his cover as a British psyop. But by that point, it didn't matter. Der Chef was a huge hit. Based on interviews with POWs and intelligence sources within Germany itself, it's believed to have been one of the most popular radio programs in Germany. Rumors that started on the program would find their way into everyday conversations, even though people rightly suspected that it was a put-on. And ironically, Der Chef's success might have been due to Hitler himself. According to Delmer, during one of his conversations with Hitler, the aspiring Führer described to Delmer how every man has an inner pig dog, or Schweinhund. Your inner Schweinhund, as Hitler described it, is the weak, undisciplined side of your personality that's focused on food and sleep and sex and your own self-interest. This remark made Delmer take a closer look at Nazi propaganda, and beneath all the talk of a glorious thousand-year empire, he could see myriad appeals to one's inner Schweinhund. Delmer built the character of Der Chef around this insight. He saw that wrapping salacious material in the flag elevated it somehow. Der Chef might have been filthy as hell, but it always had a subtext about the nobility of the common German citizen. The sex talk got you to tune in, but you never felt bad about it because Der Chef wasn't pornography. It was your patriotic duty to listen to Der Chef. Listening to Der Chef made you a better German. And Sam, the medical student, accidentally made the same discovery when he created Emily Hart. Remember, his earlier attempts at creating a hot girl influencer fell flat, but when he added conservative ideology into the mix, Emily took off. By following Emily, you were supporting the cause. You weren't a pervert, you were a patriot.
Whatever you're doing, it's okay.
Hitler's idea to focus on people's inner Schweinhund might have come from his friend and ally Julius Streicher. This guy might well have been one of the nastiest people in the Nazi party. Even other Nazis didn't like him. Imagine being so nasty that even Hermann Göring looks at you and is like, no. During the 1920s and 30s, Streicher published a violently anti-Semitic newspaper called Der Sturmer. Now, despite Streicher's friendship with Hitler, Der Sturmer never became an official Nazi publication, primarily due to its vulgar content, which was so foul that Joseph Goebbels tried to have it banned. But much like Der Chef, that vulgar content made it a huge hit. Much of Der Sturmer's appeal came from its focus on sex. Almost every issue featured lengthy, graphic descriptions of sexual violence committed against German women by Jewish men or other non-Germans, or cautionary tales of innocent German women being led to ruin after being seduced by Jewish men. And just in case the lurid text wasn't enough for you, these stories were often accompanied by highly detailed illustrations. This made Der Stürmer quite popular with young men, even young Jewish men. Despite the Weimar Republic's reputation for being sexually liberated, there wasn't a lot of readily available mass-market pornography, and if you were a young guy who wanted to see some boobies, well, unfortunately, Der Stürmer was a pretty reliable option. Like Delmer, Stryker understood that propaganda works slowly, needs repeated exposure, and works best when coupled with strong emotions. Like Der Chef, Der Stürmer's sexual content kept the audience coming back for more, creating the conditions for a gradual change in attitudes. And again, like Der Chef, you could rationalize reading Der Stürmer by telling yourself you were just keeping up with what's really happening in the world. Stryker's work was so effective that they hanged him for it. At the Nuremberg trials, it was found that even though he didn't participate directly in the Holocaust, his work as a propagandist was a key factor in making the Holocaust possible. So let's wrap this up somehow. I generally like to end these videos by giving you some actionable advice on how you can avoid propaganda on social media, but cases like Emily Hart are tough because they're not strictly propaganda. There are plenty of flesh and blood influencers out there posing with guns while wearing bikinis and steering you towards their OnlyFans accounts, and it's not illegal, it's a marketing hook, it's not propaganda. But it might be a grift, and it also might be an attempt to draw you into more extreme beliefs. In general, I recommend that you avoid accounts that mix politics and sex, because that's an extremely potent combination that makes most of us very, very vulnerable to manipulation. My primary source for this video was the book How to Win an Information War by Peter Pomerantsev. It's mostly about Seth and Delmer, but it's also got a lot of good stuff in there about today's media ecosystem and the current war in Ukraine. Check it out. And a full list of sources and elements used to create this video is pinned in the first comment. And as always, thanks for watching. Hey, thanks for sticking around until the end. If you're still here, that probably means you're a highly curious individual who wants to know more. And if that's the case, I recommend checking out my Sources and Elements page or heading over to Patreon. See, whenever I do one of these history deep dives, I always end up with a lot of weird, wonderful, and disturbing material that I can't fit into the main video. If you're curious about what some of that weird, wonderful, and disturbing material might be, on my Patreon page, I have a bonus video that's got all the good stuff that I couldn't fit into this video. There's a link in the description, and I hope to see you there. Thanks.